And so I want to make sure that everyone is able to get credit hours as they see fit. This is going to last 2 hours. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with something called a Kahoot. So Kahoot is basically an online learning website. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen where you guys can see what's going on. And what you need to do is you go to www.kahoot.it. You can use your phone for this. www.kahoot.it, and there's a game password, a PIN number. Once you enter that in, it'll ask you what your name is, and we're going to go over like some myths of officiating, some lacrosse myths. www.kahoot.it. You can do it right on your phone, and you enter that game PIN, and it'll let you in. Everyone's names are going to start appearing.
All you're doing is getting the benefit of staying home and then doing nothing, watching video games and playing stuff like that. I want you rested and I want you to service. I really need us to go to lot 58, clean out the garage, and pressure wash the outside. I would pressure wash. You would load up my truck. Then we would take it to the
make sure to mute yourself. I know we'd all like to help you with your garage. A little bit longer to let people join up.
I'm actually zooming on my phone.
Oh, you don't. It's okay. You don't have to join it. You'll be able to see everything, and you can answer on your own too.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. We got 19 people in the meeting right now. See a couple more people join up. And again, if you can't do this on your phone or on your device, you can just play along because you'll be able to see the video. All right, we'll go ahead and start it. Remember, you can play along without being a part of it. So here we go. This is lacrosse myths. So it's timed. The highest scorer gets the most points. True or false? If a player is injured, you always stop play immediately. If a player is injured, you always stop play immediately. It is false. Remember, even if an injured player is down on the ground, if there's an imminent scoring opportunity, we're going to let it go. If the player is right smack in front of the goal, we'll probably need to kill it at that point. But just because a player is injured on the field does not mean we need to stop play immediately. The only time we're really going to do that is if he's in imminent danger or it's an injury on the face-off and possession has not been gained. If an injury happens on the face-off, possession hasn't been gained, and the ball is not below the restraining line, we're going to kill the play and reface the ball. Those are the only times we are going to move on and let an injury go. Okay, next.
Feel as if they're at their wits' end. They've been pulling the double and triple shifts. They've been working so hard. The country's not paying attention.
All right, moving on. True or false? On a shot,
from the billing.
Hey guys, mute yourselves. On a shot, if the ball hits the pipe twice, it is a goal.
And hear their frustrations, and also meet with communities and hear their frustrations. And I think we have to come together.
The ball hits the pipe twice. It is a goal. It is false. It does not matter. The ball can hit the pipe 15 times. It does not matter how many times it hits the pipe. It is not a goal. The ball must completely pass the line on the bottom of the goal line, and through the pipe. It must pass completely through the pipe. And it must be a loose ball passing beyond the goal. The goalie can have the ball in the stick. He can bring his stick back through the plane of the goal. It's not a goal. The ball must be loose. All right, next one. Looks like Ken's up. Ken's up in the lead. True or false? A team is offsides if they only have 2 attackmen or defensive men on their respective side of the field. A team is offside if they only have 2 attackmen or defensive men on their respective side of the field. So think about it. They have 2 guys on one side, 2 guys on the other side. They're probably offsides. It is false. Now, although one team might have 2 guys on one side, they're probably substituting. Remember, when we're transitioning through the field and looking for offsides calls, we're counting forwards, not backwards. So we're not going to look backwards and count the defensive men on one team. We're going to count the other direction, the way we are transitioning. All right, next one. Let's see who's in the lead now. Ken's still in the lead, and Flash, Gordon. A goalkeeper who has the ball clamped outside of the crease can be stick checked. Means the ball is underneath his stick outside of the crease. It's a loose ball. Goalie's clamped on top of that ball outside the crease. He can be stick checked. True or false? It is true. You cannot stick check the goalie if he has possession of the ball. But if he is clamped on top of the ball outside of the crease, you are allowed to stick check him. You're allowed to lift his stick up in the air to try to get that ball. But as soon as he brings that ball back into the crease, you need to leave him alone. Now, that also comes into account if the ball is loose inside the crease, an attackman is more than willing and more than able to reach in and try to grab that ball. If the goalie checks his stick, that is not a goalie interference. It has to be the other way around. And we'll explain this more in a little bit. Okay, next one. True or false? If a player dives and gets pushed during the dive, scores, then lands in the crease, it is a goal. So think about the order. A player dives and gets pushed during the dive, scores, then lands in the crease, it is a goal. Disclaimer, remember, this is high school rules. It is false. It is not true. Remember the order of what it was listed. If a player dives, means he dives first, then gets pushed during his dive, scores and lands in the crease, it is a goal. That is false. Now, if he gets pushed and then dives following the push, we have a flag down because he got pushed, scores, as long as he doesn't land in the crease before he scores, it's fine. But remember, we got to think about the order that things occur. So always slow down a second. We want to be really quick on goals. We always do, but we have to slow down a second. Think of the order. It's okay to have a slower goal call, a slower crease call. It is okay. All right, moving on. A goalie interference will always result in a free clear. Interfering with the goalie will always result in a free clear. It is false. Remember, a goalie can be interfered with, but he has to be in the process of the clear to be considered a free clear. So a goalie has the ball in his stick, attackman standing in front of him, waving his hands. He throws the ball, he hits the guy's stick. That free clear is going to continue in a play-on scenario. Ball's going to dribble, 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 dribble. If they gain possession of the ball, the play-on's over. But you can still have goalie interference and have it not be a free clear. You just stop the play. If he loses the ball, loses possession, give the ball back to the goalie and continue on. After a shot is taken misses the goal, and the ball goes out of bounds, the player closest to the end line gets the ball. After a shot is taken, misses the goal, and goes out of bounds, the player closest to the end line gets the ball. And I know some of this is going to be new for some of you guys, but it's okay. You just got to do the best you can. It is false. Remember, on a shot, if a shot is taken and the ball goes out of bounds, it's whoever's closest to where and when the ball went out of bounds. So if the ball goes out of bounds right behind the goal cage and you have an offensive man, an attackman standing 15 yards away, right on the end line, and the goalie is 5 yards away, but not right on the end line, he's going to get the ball. It's closest to where the ball went out of bounds, when and where it went out of bounds, not the closest to the end line. Technical fouls can be non-releasable penalties. Technical fouls can be non-releasable penalties. Now, this is delving pretty far into the rule book. Technical fouls can be non-releasable penalties. It is very, very true. Technical fouls can be non-releasable penalties. And the times when you'll get those is when we have a simultaneous foul. We have a foul on the defense, and then we have a foul on the offense. We can make those non-releasable, meaning the first 30 seconds of both fouls will be non-releasable. If a player shoots the ball, the head of his stick comes dislodged and the ball goes into the goal, it is a no goal. True or false? A player is shooting the ball. As he shoots the ball comes out, his head comes off. Ball goes into the goal. It is a no goal. Oh, it is true. If the head becomes dislodged on a shot, flies off of the stick, it is a no goal. It is a no goal. There's a specific AR in the book that actually outlines it. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but I'll find it in here in a little bit. But it is a no goal. If the head comes off, it is no goal. A team can start a game man down with 9 players. A team can start a game man down with 9 players. It's false. It is not true. A team cannot start a game with less than 10 players. A team must start with 10 players. A team can end the game with less than 10 players, but they must start the game with 10 players. Must, must, must. If the team does not have a goalie, the game is a forfeit. A team cannot start a game without a fully equipped goalie. All right, almost done. On a face-off, a player with the ball in the back of his cross may shake the ball loose. On a face-off, a player with the ball in the back of his cross may shake the ball loose. It's false. A player is not allowed to shake the ball loose. Now, this might have been a little confusing for some people. A player is only allowed one motion to get that ball out of his stick. The only people on the field that can have the ball in the back of their stick is a face-off player during a face-off. So if he comes out of a face-off with the ball in the back of his stick, his one move is to get that ball out. So him coming up, that ball must come out. He's not allowed to shake it to get the ball out. So coming up and then forcing his stick down, that's 2 moves. He's only allowed one move to get the ball out of the back of the stick. A slash occurs before a goal is scored. the goal will wipe out the penalty. A slash occurs before the goal is scored. The goal will wipe out the penalty. True or false? It is false. It is false. If a slash, it's a personal foul. If a personal foul occurs before the goal is scored, that personal foul is still going to stick. The only time we're going to wipe out that penalty is if it's a technical foul violation. Personal foul violations will stay in the penalty box. So the next face-off will be a man down. Now that's a live ball personal foul. If it's a dead ball personal foul, like a late hit, there's not going to be a face-off. If it's a dead ball personal foul, like a late hit, there won't be a face-off. They'll just gain possession. But a live ball personal foul, goal scored, that person's going to serve in the penalty box. True or false? It is not a ward for a player to lift his arm over the defensive stick following a stick check. It means the defensive guy's stick is under his armpit. He lifts his arm up to get it out from under the stick. It is not a ward for a player to lift his arm over, means the stick is in his armpit, over the guy's stick following a stick check. That is true, 100%, 100% true. Remember, it's all about advantage, disadvantage. If the guy stick checks, he's trying to lift up and he gets under the guy's elbow, he's allowed to lift his arm to try to get it out. He's not allowed to clamp down and trap the guy's stick. So you got to think about it. Think about it one step in advance. What is this guy going to do to release his arm from the stick check? A player is allowed to play the ball, pass, shoot, bat, or kick the ball while on the ground. A player is allowed to play the ball, pass, shoot, bat, or kick the ball while on the ground. That is true. A player is 100% allowed to play the ball. 100%. He cannot cover the ball. If he covers up the ball, we have a different situation. A player who is downed is also allowed to be stick checked. He is not allowed to be body checked. So if he's on the ground and he has that ball and he's twiddling his stick around and he's on his back, a defensive player is allowed to stick check his stick. He just can't body him when he's on the ground. All right, I think this is the last one. A player who curses at his own teammate cannot be penalized. A player who curses at his own teammate cannot be penalized. True or false? There's a goalie getting mad at his defensive guy because he's not doing the right thing. That is false. Correct. A player who curses his own teammate can be penalized. He can be, especially if mommy and daddy hear it on the sideline. He can be penalized. Now, you probably have a pretty high tolerance for it, but he can be penalized for that. So out of those few myths that we did, does anyone have any questions about those before we keep on moving along? Oh, Dean, I didn't even see that your comment. You said, where's the goalie? Was that on the shot? Was that what you were asking about?
That was on the clamp.
Oh, on the clamp. Yeah, goalie in the crease, but even if he's clamped outside of the crease, he's allowed to be stick checked. He's allowed to be lifted. Yeah, goalies, even with 1 foot in the crease, he could be 15 yards, like 2 yards out of the crease. But if he's clamped on top of the ball and 1 foot still in the crease, he's still in the crease, but his stick's technically not. He can still be a stick check.
Right, right.
You good with that one, Dean?
Yeah, it would just, goalie is the same as any other player outside the crease.
Right, exactly. The goalie does not have any privileges as soon as he leaves the crease. He can be checked. Now, there's the other thing that since you bring that up, a defensive player who's in the crease and has possession of the ball does not have goalie privileges. He is allowed to be stick checked. So think about that. A goalie in the crease, a legal goalie, cannot be stick checked while he's in the crease. As soon as he leaves the crease, he has a free game. But a defensive player possessing the ball inside of the crease is allowed to be stick checked. He does not have the same privileges. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our slideshow. Okay, can everyone see just the first slide, or does everyone see everything that I see too? I'm in a presenter view. You see the whole screen?
We see the presenter view, yeah. We see the slide you're on, and then we
we see it all.
That's okay.
It's fine, it works.
Yeah, it still works. Let me try one more thing. Again, I'm used to using Microsoft Teams for school. I'll just leave it like this. Okay. So, because I had a recording here too. So this is lacrosse referee development for today for 2 credit hours, and this is going to be our first training of the year. I have all this kind of stuff over here, and you can read through some of this. So a little bit of the history of it. Native Americans started it. Now it's basically a prep or started as a prep and private school, but has completely evolved over the years. A lot of people say it's a substitute to war. That's extremely debatable. A substitute to war. In the research that I've done, tribes would go against each other, but it wasn't really a substitute for war. The man who invented basketball also played lacrosse. That's why you see a lot of similarities in the plays and transitions between them. So here's what you can see is the evolution of a classic Native American lacrosse head. You can see the length differences. You can see the head size differences. And as lacrosse evolved, so did the equipment. So the rules have pretty much stayed similar over the years, but they've changed based on the technology changes. So you see the difference going all the way up. Big thing I want you to notice is these 3 sticks right here. These 3 sticks, even this one in some cases, are all still legal by lacrosse rules. This is a modern one today. This is a traditional stick. This is still a traditional stick, means it has leathers going down the center of the stick. Only thing that's going to change is the measurement from the top to the bottom of the stick must be so long, 10 inches. If this is longer than 10 inches, it's illegal. So the manipulation of our rules has been primarily done. Oh gosh, what happened? The manipulation of our, hold on, I'm sorry guys. Okay. The manipulation of our rules has been because of technology changes through the years. Sorry, this thing all of a sudden started going a little nuts. Let me get back to it. Sure. Okay, there we go. Now it's just a screen, right? No longer presenter view. Okay, just I wanted to add something a little bit funny in there. Because the lacrosse has evolved itself over time, we ourselves have to evolve. I can say very, very confidently that I have never had a perfect game as an official. I can say very, very confidently. And the likelihood of us having a perfect game is very, very small. We're officiating a sport, skilled sport played by heathens. That's the way I kind of like to look at it. Lacrosse is an extremely skilled sport. You can have 2 very, very skilled teams, or you can have 2 not very skilled teams, which there are definitely some of those in the state of Tennessee. But we have to continuously evolve. So therefore, our application of the rules has to continuously evolve. So points of interest. In our rule book, it brings up points of interest and keynotes. The things that we're going to talk about is in lacrosse, there must be 2 teams of 10 to start a game. Teams must have 2 legally equipped goalkeepers. And so one thing you'll see the exact rule of where it's listed in our rule book. The field is 110 yards long. It is 153 1/3 to 60 yards wide. That's for a standard field. A lacrosse game will always begin with a face-off. Players may check others with their body and their crosses. Play is, the ball is in play while being carried, thrown, or batted with the cross, or rolled or kicked in any direction. There's no more than 6 offensive players on their end or 7 defensive players on their end of the field, using the midline as our breaking point. A goal counts as 1 point. This is not we don't have 2 points and 3 points. It always counts as 1, and most goals win. This is a basic overview of what lacrosse is. Our rule book is separated into 7 distinct rules. We are going to cover mainly the first, second, and fourth rules today. First, second, and fourth. The game, field, and equipment, game personnel, time factors, play of the game, personal fouls and ejection fouls, technical fouls, and penalty enforcement. We're really only going to cover the first, second, and fourth rules today. Our governing bodies are the NFHS and US Lacrosse. And I have this little symbol right here that says meets NOCSE standard. The NOCSE standard is something that has to be on all lacrosse helmets right now. And coming up this next year, all goalie chest protectors must also be NOCSE standard, goalie chest protectors. I've looked at them. The difference between the old ones and the new ones is they protect the side of the rib cage a little bit more, and the bottom of the chest protector, where more last year it came to a point, it's more flat now, so it covers more of the pelvis. So the goalie equipment must meet that NOCSE standard. Now, part of our pregame check this next season for the first few games must be asking the head coach, does your goalie have a new chest protector that meets the NOCSE standard? We must ask the head coach this question as part of our pregame. Am I going to go up and ask the goalie to pull up his shirt so I can see his chest protector? No. Ask the head coach, does your goalie have the correct equipment? That pregame question serves as the warning for that head coach. Whenever you ask a head coach, are your players legally and properly equipped by rule? So he certifies his players. That is his warning. So if you find at any time during the game that someone's illegally equipped, you penalize it immediately. There is no warning. Your warning is the very first time you certify that coach. So goalie chest protectors new. All field players, that happens in 2022. All field players must have a chest protector that meets NOCSE standard in 2022. But this next year, it's only the goalies. Our rule books. The 2020 rule book, I have already been delving into it like crazy, marking it up like crazy. Same thing with the youth rules book. When you renew your US Lacrosse membership or get a US Lacrosse membership as an official, you'll automatically get one of these rule books for free. Automatically. You can choose which one you want. The youth rules book, you can either choose to purchase that if you want to, or I can send you a PDF copy of it. Get the boys lacrosse rule book. Since the high school season starts first before the youth season, get the high school rules. Because youth rules, yes, are very different, but they're high school rules with severe modification. Okay, places to bookmark. This is something that I've done every single season. Places to bookmark in your rule book are points of emphasis. They're at the very beginning. Rules revisions, they're also at the beginning. But when it comes to rules revisions, there are no new rules this next year. We're using the same rules revisions as last year. There are no new rules coming for this year. And in the rule book, all of those rules revisions and changes will be highlighted in gray. So you'll see something, if something's gray, it pops up, it is a new rule. Goal scored and not scored. That's rule 4.8 and 4.9. Mark that up and reread it a couple of times. Goal scored and not scored. Misapplication of the rules on page 7.1, on rule 7.1.13. Inadvertent whistles. Read that too. The cardinal sin of any official is an inadvertent whistle, but you have to know what to do if you have an inadvertent whistle. It's different depending on where you are in the field and the situation. Goalie increased privileges and things they can't do. Cross specifications, sudden victory overtime, and signals, which are at the very end of the book. Now, this is how I choose to highlight. If you see words like shall, must, and will, it is 100% that way. If you see words like may, should, and can, it can change depending on the situation. So as you're reading the rule book, shall, must, and will, it must be that way. It is 100%, it is concrete. But if you see words like may, should, and can, it depends on the situation. Is the ball being possessed? Is the ball on the ground? Is the ball in the air? Are we live ball? Are we dead ball? That's when your situations can change. Shall, must, will, 100%. May, should, can, 70-30. Okay, the key definitions we're going to go over, and then I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions, are the who, the what, and the where. Now, I'll be 100% honest. I stole this completely from the GLOA. I loved the way they put this in. So the who, the midfielder, defensive man, attackman, goalie, and head coach, who is involved? Every rule involves someone. Who does it involve? What is involved? Offense, defense, clearing, or riding. Clearing and riding is our transition game. And where is the ball when everything takes place? Is it in the alley? Is it in the box? Is it on the midline? Substitution or penalty box, restraining line, wing, crease, and so on and so on. Where does everything take place? So the who, the what, and the where. So as you're applying rules, you think about these three things. Who is involved? Okay, well, the defensive men push the offensive men. Cool, I know the who. What was happening at the time? Offense had the ball, they were in possession of it. Where did it occur? Well, it occurred inside of the box. So I have a push inside of the box with possession. That's a flag down. Ball's going to restart outside the box. I have the who, the what, and the where. So always got to apply those rules in those three descending categories. Before I move on to the next part where it's going to get a little bit more in depth, and I know I'm kind of going a little quickly because I want to spend some more time on other things. Does anyone have any questions so far?
There's like some questions in the chat if you want to look at those.
I don't even have the chat pulled up. Let me look at that real quick. Okay, so is there a specific place for the NOXI standard sticker? On a helmet, it's on the back. It's on the back side of the helmet. On a goalie pad, it's on their back where the sizing sticker is. Like where the sizing tag is, that's where that NOXI standard tag is on a goalie equipment. Now, not meaning they're not going to cut it off, but after we get used to how they look, you'll see what the difference is between the new and the old. You'll also kind of notice the difference because goalies keep the same pads forever. If it's new or if it's janky, you'll pretty much know if it's the new goalie equipment. Everyone should have the NOXI standard. We're past the point from a few years ago where people were retrofitting helmets. I mean, they're sending their helmets in and they were getting pads added to the inside of the helmet, and they were always like a different color, like yellow or orange. But the NOXI standard sticker is always on the back of the helmet, or on a goalie equipment is on their back. Yeah, this whole presentation will be emailed to you guys, 100%, as well as the recording. And Michael says, I'm just feeling overwhelmed by the terms. I completely understand, completely. And that's why this next section, everything is going to be explained a whole lot better. I was trying to go quickly up until this point. Sorry, my dogs are barking. So go outside, go bark, go. The next few sections will be all the definitions of how everything is explained. So don't feel overwhelmed. It's for some people in here, it's a brand new sport. Don't feel overwhelmed. Okay, so let's talk about the who so far. A midfielder, or as we call them, middies, are any player who can run or move to any side of the field. That is a midfielder. Now, it's not saying that number 4 on the white team is a midfielder. He is always a midfielder. That is not the case. A midi is anyone who is running on both sides of the field. A defensive man, hey, be sure to keep your mics muted. A defensive man who can also run to either side of the field, who has a 6-foot-long titanium pole, he can run to both sides of the field. An attack guy who's usually playing offense can run to both sides of the field. A midi is a basic classification of anyone who's running on both sides. It can be either a short or a long pole player. Short poles are between 40 and 42 inches. Long pole players between 52 and 72 inches. So a midi is just a classification of a player running across. You'll hear people say, you're D-midi. That's a defensive guy with a long pole running on both sides of the field. So midi is just a classification of a player. A defensive man, a D, or a long pole is any player who is on their defensive half in the field. Can be either a short or a long pole player. The goalie is considered to be part of the defense. He is a defensive player. Now, remember, a defensive player can also run to the offensive side of the field. I've had one time so far where I had a goalie make a save, run all the way across the field and score a goal. Goalies are allowed to do that, but we have to, I mentioned it during the Kahoot, there has to be a certain amount of people on both sides of the field. So someone's got to take his place. Someone's got to take his place on his side of the field. An attackman is any player on their offensive side of the field. It can be either a short pole or a long pole player. Long pole players are kind of rare and are usually the better players on any team. Now, I'm thinking in terms of like middle school and high school. They're usually the better players on both teams play the attack position. They can hold on to the ball better. They can be checked. They can be knocked over. They're not going to drop the ball as often. They're usually the better players. I have found out over my years, attackmen are usually the guys that are also going to complain the most. So since they're going to whine, just let them whine. A goalkeeper, the goalie or the keeper, there must be one goalie on the field at all times and to start the games. You cannot it's not hockey. You can't substitute off the goalkeeper and bring on another offensive player. The goalie must stay on the field at all times. If the goalie gets injured, the team is allowed to bring another person in to serve as the goalie. They must be equipped as a goalie. He has different equipment than the other players. A goalie is not required to wear shoulder pads or arm guards. Not required to do so. He is allowed to wear, you can look in the rule book, he is allowed to wear football leg pads. He is not allowed to wear football shoulder pads. He's allowed to wear shin guards. He's allowed to wear rib protectors. He's allowed to wear a lot of extra equipment, but he cannot wear hockey equipment, hockey gloves, hockey leg padding. He cannot wear the extra equipment that is not stated in our rule book. He also has different privileges than other players while in his crease. Goalie privileges. He cannot be checked while in the crease. No one can go and stick check him. But as soon as he leaves the crease, he is a normal player on the field who has a whole lot less padding than everyone else. So the hairs in the back of my neck always raise up whenever I see a goalie running up the field with the ball, because he has no elbow pads. He has no shoulder pads. I'm not saying protect the goalie, because as soon as he leaves the crease, he loses his privileges. But sometimes you have to look at him, in my eyes, as a different kind of player, especially at the middle school and the high school level. If a goalie runs up the field and the attackman who's running with them trying to get the ball is just wailing on his elbow, which is exposed, I think of that a little bit differently. We have to protect that guy. I know he's a goalie. He wants to score. He wants to be a player, but he has no padding. If he gets checked on his elbow, we better make sure that we're watching him very, very, very closely. Who is the head coach? There's only one head coach. He is the guy that you talk to before the game starts. As officials, he is the guy we're talking to. He is also the person who certifies all the players on the team ready to play. So when we go up to the coach, let's say the first 5 games of the season, everyone needs to do this. Coach, does your goalie have a NOXI certified chest protector? Yes, he does. Are all your players legally equipped by rule? Yes. Awesome. Beautiful. Moving on. We have to make sure that we certify that head coach. If we do not certify him and something pops up, it's on us. So Here's the who, bunch of definitions. Does anyone have any questions? I have the chat pulled up right next to me, so you can ask if you would like, or if you want to just unmute, you can ask as well. Does anyone have any questions so far over the who terms?
Hey, Gene, I just wanted to emphasize a point, if I could, real quick.
Go ahead.
So one of the things that we do really poorly is with goalies and penalties. So to be clear, in high school federation rules, the goalie does have to serve his or her penalty. If the team who has a goalie in the penalty box cannot field another properly equipped goalie, that game is over. The team that cannot put a goalie on the field has just forfeited that game. So middle schools, it depends on their leagues. We have leagues this year. In high school, the in-home does not serve. And that applies for varsity and that applies to JV games. So we will be communicating that clearly and crisply to all the teams. And I understand that, teams that may only have one goalie, but do not be that official that screws all other officials across the state over by being the nice guy. You are setting the rest of us up for complaints and failure by not enforcing that rule. Please do not be that guy that does not enforce this rule. If they cannot field a properly equipped goalie, they have just forfeited that game.
And on that note, if a goalie is serving a penalty, the other team is allowed to bring someone else in to serve as the goalie. Now, there's a specific outline for that. The goalie comes off the field. He is allowed to remove, there's probably only one set of goalie equipment. He switches equipment with someone else on the field. He can come back onto the field and you give him 1 minute warm-up time. Once he is on the field and in the crease, you give him 1 minute to warm up. It's not, coach, your goalie serving a penalty. You have 1 minute to put someone else in and then we're starting play. No, that's not the way it works. It is an official's timeout for right now for him to switch his stuff. Once he gets on the field, you give him 1 minute to warm up. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Give him 1 minute to warm up. Now, again, we don't want to be too good in these situations, but let's say goalie's penalty is over with. That goalie that's on the field cannot run off the field. The goalie's off the field, changes equipment, runs back on. There must be a legally equipped goalie on the field at all times. It means they need to wait for a dead ball situation or call a timeout to get that goalie switched back out. And again, this is just blatantly what it states in the rules. There must be a legally equipped goalie on the field at all times. With that also being said, a defensive man or midfielder, if the goalie jumps out of the crease to do something, let's just say pick up a ball, a defensive man jumps into the crease, the area around the goal, to serve as a goalie. That means he is going to try to protect the goal. He can be outside of the crease. Someone shoots the ball, it bounces off of him, that's fine. But as soon as he's inside the crease and he gets hit with a shot, he is serving himself as a goalie. That is a penalty. That is a penalty. It is a conduct foul the first time. Conduct foul the first time. Every time after that, it is a 1 minute unsportsmanlike conduct foul and it's releasable. So the first time a defensive man hops in the goal to be a goalie, it is a conduct foul. The next time it is a releasable unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I have thrown that flag once, one time, but it's good to always be aware that if you see a defensive man jumping into the goal, you know something's going to happen. Now, here's the other thing, though. If defensive jumps in the goal, do not kill the play. If a shot's about to take place, you let it go. Let him shoot the ball because you cannot kill an imminent scoring opportunity. Let him shoot the ball, throw the flag after it, do what you have to do after the fact. Michael asked, what does releasable mean? So we have two types of penalties. We have releasable penalties and non-releasable penalties. A releasable penalty is a technical foul or a personal foul that if the goal is scored, if someone's in the penalty box and a goal is scored, just like in hockey, the penalty is released. A non-releasable penalty is a targeting foul or an unsportsmanlike conduct foul, where we put this guy, or a stick penalty foul, which stick penalties are also different starting last year into this year. A non-releasable foul, let's say some guy gets a targeting foul, so we put him in the box for 2 minutes, not releasable, for an illegal body check. Targeting, he led with his head, he hit the other guy right in the other guy's helmet. We give him a non-releasable penalty. The other team could score 15 goals. That guy's not coming out of the penalty box. A releasable foul, if 1 goal scored, that penalty is now released. He can leave the penalty area or back to full strength. Does that make sense, Michael? Got it. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're going to cover is the what. Now remember, when we talk about penalties, talking about anything on the field, we're always the who and the what. The what, the offense. The offense is always team A in the rule book. So if you see A1, that's an offensive player. A2 is an offensive player. A3 is an offensive player. The offense is any team deliberately possessing the ball in an effort to score. A team is still considered to be offensive until the ball is turned over. So although the ball might be rolling on the ground, the guys are kicking it along, one team is still on offense, one team still on defense. The defense is always labeled as team B in the rule book, and it's a team trying to gain possession of the ball from the offensive team. A team is still considered to be a defensive team until the ball is turned over. Clearing is the offensive act of moving the ball from the defensive half of the field to the offensive half of the field. Team A shoots the ball. Team B's goalie saves the ball. Team B is now clearing. On the opposite side, the righting team is the defensive act of playing the offensive team while clearing the ball to the other end of the field. So I'll use the exact same example. Team A shoots the ball. Team B's goalie saves the ball. Team B's team is now trying to clear the ball. Team A is righting. So we have a righting team and a clearing team, an offensive team and a defensive team. That's a very, very quick way of kind of explaining the transition game. So again, if you have questions, just type them in the chat and I'll answer them the best I possibly can. So our field, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop sharing real quick and I'm going to share my whole screen where I can pull up. Everyone can see my screen? Hopefully pull up this real quick. So I tried to make this work, but in some ways it worked, in some ways it did not work. Play. So here is a basic outline of what our field can look like. Okay. In this, my Keynote, which is another program I have, decided to update itself, and I couldn't actually use this. Here's everything labeled on a lacrosse field. Okay, the red team is team A. Let's just say team A, and blue team is team B. So these are all of our locations labeled on a lacrosse field. Starting in the very, very center, we have the face-off X. The face-off X can be either an X or a square. You have the midline, which on a football field is the 50-yard line. You have the wing lines on opposite ends of the field. Out parallel to the midfield lines, you have the restraining lines. On a football field, they're the 30-yard line. You have the end lines on either you have the end lines which are on either end. On a football field, lacrosse markings run 10 yards into the end zone. The alleys, side left, side right, side right, side left. You're always looking at the alleys from the goalie's perspective. So if you're going to tell the goalie that the ball is going to start top right on the right-hand side of the field, if we're on the right-hand side of the screen, if we say it's going to start top right, that ball is going to start right here. We're always looking from the goalie's perspective. If the goalie's here, we're saying the ball's starting top right, the ball is going to start right here. The goalie's right here, we say the ball's starting side left, the ball is going to start right here. Always look at positioning from the goalie's perspective. Although for us, it might be different. But from the goalie's perspective, we're always going to let the goalie know where that ball is going to be restarting. What you also have here is you have these two officials. We're doing this is a two-man mechanic. At the start of a game, you have a face-off official and you have an off official. If the ball goes this direction towards the right, this official is the lead official. This official is the trail official, lead and trail. If the ball goes the other direction though, this official is the lead official. This official is the trail official. So here is our markings for a lacrosse field. What you also see is you'll see our crease lines, which is a 9-foot radius circle around the goal. 9-foot radius. That is what the goalie has to maintain his privileges. Crease line on both sides of the field. Does anyone have any questions about how our field is labeled? Wing lines, alleys, restraining lines. These are our goal areas. A lot of people call it the box. Okay, here's the box. Here's the box. Restraining line, mid, midline, wing, restraining, inline, sideline. We good with no questions? Okay, let's move back into our PowerPoint. So the where, when we talk about the where, we're thinking about the spot on the field where it's existing, where the ball is. Where is the ball? Is it at GLE, which is the goal line extended? Is it on the alley? Is it in the box? So the box is here, the alley is here. Is it at the midfield line? Is it around the crease area? Is it on the in line? Is it on the sideline? Is it where the face-off takes place? We always have to think about where the ball took place. So whenever we're thinking about penalties or we're thinking about anything that we have to do as officials, who was involved, what happened, and where was the ball at? Because that where is going to determine where the ball is going to restart. That is how it's going to work. Where is the ball going to restart? I'm just going to kick it off from back over here. Okay, so there's our what. Other definitions and concepts. We already talked about the lead official versus the trail official. The lead official is going to be the one that's going to be watching the goal. Trail official is the one that's going to be watching everything else. And a three-man mechanic will also have a single side official. I'm not going to even discuss him right now. On a face-off, we have a face-off official. On a face-off, we have a wing official who guides off. We have on and off officials. Is the ball going towards you? Cool, then you're the on official. If the ball is going away from you, you are the off official. Look at it like a light switch, on versus off. Am I on or am I off? Advantage, disadvantage. Play on. A play on mechanic is, we'll discuss it a tiny bit today. Flag down, slow whistles. Alternate possessions. Get it in, keep it in. Stalling and counts. Now, these are key definitions that I want you to look up in the rule book. You should always know the definition for every single one of these. Always, always, always know these definitions. Will we cover them in this meeting? No, we're only going to cover these key definitions. We're going to cover possession, loose ball, shot, goal, out of bounds, airborne player, downed player, and alternate possession. Those are the definitions that we are covering today. I believe that these, if you understand these, you understand a lot of what's going to be happening during play, just normal play. Adjudication of penalties will come secondary to these key definitions. Possession. I want everyone to say it a gajillion times. Possession is any player carrying, cradling, passing, or shooting. I'll say it again. Possession is any player carrying, cradling, passing, or shooting. Carrying the ball within the mesh of his stick. That is carrying. He cannot grab the ball with his hand. He must carry it in his stick. Cradling is the act of using force to maintain possession of the ball within the cross. And I'll get one of my lacrosse sticks for the new guys so I can show you kind of what it all looks like. Passing is moving the ball from one player to the other player, either in the air or on the ground. Bounce passes are allowed. They are allowed to roll the ball. 100%, that is still a pass. Even if they're rolling the ball, they're passing the ball. Shooting is the act of moving the ball from the cross in the direction of the goal mouth. Now, I know that every single guy in here has seen a shot where you know where the guy was aiming, but that ball went 50 yards the other direction. It doesn't matter. It's still a shot. He might be aiming at the goal who's right in front of him, but that ball goes out directly to his right. It is still a shot. He's in the act of shooting. We know if he's passing. We know if he's shooting the ball. So as officials on the field, we have to communicate with each other. We'll yell shot, pass, shot, whenever we think the other official maybe didn't see it. Communicate with each other from across the field. I'll say it one more time because it's very important. Possession is any player carrying, cradling, passing, or shooting. Upon gaining possession, following a face-off, the official will move his arm in a circular motion with either arm to the side of the body. So you can't really see me right now exactly. Oh, but you move your arm around in a circle. That's it. That is a possession call. Possession, possession, possession. Now myself, I put my whistle on my left hand. I use a finger whistle, and I do all of my motions with my right hand. I don't want to have my whistle on the same arm I'm going to do my motion with, because you're going to go tweet and then do this. That doesn't work. You have your whistle on the opposite hand you're going to do your circling with. The official should not call possession on a face-off until he is sure possession is gained or the ball has crossed the restraining line, gone out of bounds, or a subsequent penalty halts the play. So let's think about a face-off real quick. So a face-off takes place. It's two players going down at the midfield line at the beginning of a game, after every goal, or at the beginning of a quarter. Two face-off players. Their sticks are like this. The official takes the face-off. He blows it into play. They're fighting for the ball. Fight, 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 fight. He could try to scoop the ball. If he doesn't gain possession, passing, cradling, or carrying the ball, it is not possession. We do not yell anything. If the ball crosses the restraining line, if we go back, look at our field diagram, ball crosses the restraining line, all we're going to do is yell play. Play. That's now releasing all the players from their restraining line, because all other players that aren't involved in the face-off must be behind their restraining line. So let me do this. I'm going to go back to that diagram that I showed a second ago. Back to here. Face-off players are in the middle. As those face-off players are in the middle, they fight for the ball. We will not yell possession until they pick up the ball by cradling, passing, carrying, or shooting. The other players you see on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, those people are restrained behind the restraining line until possession is called. The 6 players you see in the middle are the ones that are going to fight for the ball. Now, here's another lacrosse myth. And I think everyone's tried to call this once, and coaches say it all the time. The reason that the restraining lines are called restraining lines is because those players are allowed to be anywhere behind that restraining line. You'll hear people say, he's out of the box. It doesn't freaking matter if he's out of the box. All it is he has to be behind the restraining line. So let's say that this player right here, this guy, runs over here as the ball is going this direction. Ball's right here. It doesn't matter that this guy's out of the box as long as he's still behind the restraining line. I really, really hope that makes sense. He must be behind the restraining line. The only time the restraining line is used is on a face-off. Other than that, we're not going to use the restraining line. We're going to use the goal area or the box for everything else. Okay? Before I go any further, anyone have any questions whatsoever before we keep on moving on? Can teams agree to the field that don't conform to the rules? That's what Dean asked. Can teams agree to a field that doesn't conform to the rules?
Yeah, let me explain, Gene.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the growth of, lacrosse around the state, teams are going to be playing on a whole variety of different fields. I had a question the other day from a middle school coach who said they're going to be playing on a high school turf field, and the athletic director doesn't want him to paint the field. So what could he do to show the box? I think he's going to buy some kind of a pre-made crease. Can he do that if the both teams agree? Is there?
Well, okay. So I hear you. Yeah. So our rules specifically state, and since this year we have to have a field administrator on the field or at the game location, that before the game starts, we have to meet with a field administrator and both head coaches. If the coaches agree to that change before the game starts, we're fine. We are perfectly fine. Now, a movable crease, basically a crease that we can lay down on top of the field. There's nothing in the rule book that says we cannot use a movable crease. I looked. It popped in my head yesterday because I knew this was going to be coming. There's nothing in the rule book that says we cannot use a movable crease. Therefore, since the coaches agree to it, if the ball deflects and goes in a weird direction because of the movable crease, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the coaches must agree, both coaches, before the game starts. So if we're only going to be using basically a football field diagram, instead of the 110 yards long, we're using just 100 yards long by 53 yards wide. As long as both coaches agree to that before the game starts, we are fine. Now, if one coach throws an upheaval about it, the game can still happen, but we're just going to give the home team a technical foul before the game starts. And then it's over. We're ending. Now, I have never had a coach that's thrown so much of a fit where I've had to go beyond that. I think I've maybe had to call a technical foul one time on a team, and it's a conduct foul, or no, it's a legal procedure call. It's a legal procedure before the game starts, and we start the game. So since you're talking about that, if we're having these conversations with the game administrator and the game officials before the game, we also need to take into account the field condition. So part of the rules that also say, let's just say the soccer team was out there the day before and they absolutely destroyed the field, and all of a sudden there's 4 gigantic mud spots in the middle of the field, and one is where our face-off takes place. We are allowed to move the face-off around if we need to. It doesn't have to be right in the center. We can move it. It can be anywhere on that midline. The other thing is, if you as a referee, because there's a referee, an umpire, and a field judge, and 3-man, the referee's call supersedes everything in this instance when it comes to field condition. The coaches could agree on it, but if the referee says, this is too dangerous.
Yeah.
I know you want to play. I know this is a divisional game. This is too dangerous. I see the kids warming up, balls getting stuck all the time. Kids are falling, and you're deeming it too dangerous. I would immediately say, call the assigner, let them know the situation. this is too dangerous for the game to take place. People are going to be pissed off. But the thing is we have to protect the player. We could be 1 minute into the game and all of a sudden a kid just annihilates his ACL. Then that's on us because we let this dangerous field condition go.
Right. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Let me ask you on that crease thing. Let's say they got a big plastic circle that they lay down on the field. And it's on a turf field, so there's no real way to secure that.
To anchor it.
Right. So people are going to be tripping over it. It's going to get kicked and moved.
Hey, Alex, let me stop you there, because all these questions should be directed to your league commissioner. So the TSLA would be adjudicating on these issues, and the middle school leagues would be adjudicating it. If we officials show up to a field, that's one of the reasons we have middle school leagues this year. If we show up to a field and we are dealing with the situation, there's been a failure to communicate on the league's part prior to. So the league needs to identify all these potential fields, and the league needs to vote or adjudicate or whatever it is and inform us on what their procedure is. We are trying to get out of the business of being in this position, this position in the first place. So this movable crease issue, whether it is allowed or not, Gina is correct. There's nothing in the U.S. Lacrosse rule book that prevents it. But before you put that crease, that movable crease on the field, you need to have already contacted that middle school league or the TSLA to see if they are going to allow it. Does that make sense? So I just want to, before we go too far down this rabbit hole, if we are down this rabbit hole, we have already failed in our job to communicate with the league. So we need to make sure we're including the leagues. The league should be identifying all these potential fields like this turf issue, and the league should be telling us whether or not they're going to allow play on that field. Now, within that process, they're obviously going to be relying on us to say what within the rule book can we and can we not do. But at the end of the day, if the league says, that we can put cones on that field, as long as the officials are comfortable with it, that game can happen. But that needs to be a league decision prior to us even stepping on that field, because that's one of the things that these leagues need to be doing is policing their own. I just want to set that context, because it seems like we're really getting ahead of ourselves with some of these things. So really the leagues need to be involved. So Dean, I would send that question to Scott and say, Scott, we are not going to officiate. I'm not sending officials to this field, period, until I have a decision on this. That's really what should be happening here.
Yeah, that's a league decision, not a referee decision. Yeah.
Gene, the other question I raised that you might want to alert people has to do with this question of possession and the fact that we're not always officiating the most skillful players. So that calling possession, for example, on a face-off, when 95% of the time a player should be able to pick up the ball and yet doesn't and bobbles it, is a reality of what we're going to be facing when we do, as these teams start growing and more teams come and skill levels, don't necessarily follow. So I thought maybe you might want to address that with people.
Yes. So again, being the definition of possession, I'm going to keep on saying it: passing, carrying, cradling, or shooting. If we're doing a youth game, middle school, let's just say sixth graders, they are going to be playing field hockey for 40% of that game because they can't pick up the ball. The ball is going to be bouncing everywhere. So we're going to want to put that ball back into someone's stick. So we're going to be very, very, I don't know the best way to put it. We're going to be very lenient, or I guess I'm trying to think. For youth kids, we just want to get the ball back in their stick. If they're going to possess the ball, we want to make sure that they are possessing the ball. They pick up the ball, they're cradling. Cool, possession. On high school, though, if they're running and they scoop that ball and that ball goes 6 inches into their stick, we're going to yell possession. because they're skilled enough. We know they're possessing that ball. Is that kind of what you're discussing? And I have a video that I'm going to show Dean about possession versus non-possession, possession, non-possession, and it just goes back and forth through the two. So we can
Good.
see many, many examples.
Good. Okay.
And one thing that Chandler brought up, Chandler's a new junior official this year. Chandler said, can the players outside of the restraining line, meaning the players participating in a face-off, cross the line into their team's box during a face-off? That's what he's asking. I said, yes. On a face-off, the players participating in the face-off, means those 6 guys, not the players behind their own restraining lines, can go in and out of the box. The people behind the restraining line must stay in there. They're not allowed to switch out with anyone participating in the face-off. They are stuck until possession is gained or the ball crosses the restraining line. They are stuck. Now, that also brings this up. Let's say that there's a face-off violation. The guy jumped. He went early. We go down before we ever blow the whistle. He jumps. We give the ball to the other team since he made an infraction. Players are still locked behind their restraining lines until we blow the whistle and wheel our arm around our head. We are locked in. A player cannot come up out of the restraining box to take the ball. A wing player, one of the other face-off players, can do that, but no one from behind the restraining line can come up and start the possession. They're locked in until play is resumed. That's why they are restrained behind the line. They can't switch out willy-nilly. It doesn't work like that. Only the face-off players, those 6 players involved, the 2 participating in the face-off and the 2 on either wing lines, are the only ones that can participate in the face-off. And the only ones that are going to kill that face-off, only things that'll kill it, is if there is a penalty where we stop play, the ball goes out of bounds, or it crosses the restraining line, or an injury. Those are the 4 things that'll cause that face-off to end before possession is gained. Those are the only 4 things: face-off injury, ball goes out of bounds, there's a penalty, or the ball crosses the restraining line. Those are the 4 things that'll cause that face-off to end. But I'm trying to, I see lots of advanced questions, and a lot of the stuff I'm covering in future trainings. I'm trying to keep this kind of minimalistic when it comes to delving really far into the rules, because right now we have 6 junior officials and then 6 or 7 other guys that this is their first year officiating lacrosse. And I don't want to overwhelm brand new guys by going really far into the rule book. So if you want to delve really far into it, if you want to type it in the chat, or you can stay on after the Zoom call is over with, where we can discuss it a little bit further. But the next thing that I want us to do is to watch a video that talks about the goosing the ball. So it's like you're kind of shoving the ball in a certain direction, whether it's possession or non-possession. So it's just a video, and this video is college kids, but we should be able to see the difference between possession and non-possession. So I hope everyone can see the screen. So the ball is loose, he gooses it, possession. He's passing the ball around. I know it's maybe hard to see for some of you, shoots and scores. No possession, possession. He's in the act of passing, cradling, and shooting. They possess the ball. Ball's loose, possession. Ball's loose, possession. He possesses the ball right now. He's moving through, ball's loose, ball's still loose, possession. Still possessed, shoots, ball's loose, still loose, and there he possesses the ball. There it is, ball's loose again, possession. So you have to, you're saying this in your head. Ball's loose, still loose, off blue, possession. So you're saying to yourself, what I do is I say off white, off blue, off black, off red. I say it to myself even while I'm officiating. I talk to myself while all this is happening. So the ball's being possessed by number 19 up at the top of the box. Ball's loose, off white, possession. Ball is loose, off white, possession. And a lot of this is going to come from just watching lacrosse. Our last season was not very long, so there's not a whole lot of film from this past season, but there are plenty of games, and I'm not even talking about penalties. All this is possession versus non-possession. Even though if you see some of the guys throwing penalty flags, this is possession versus non-possession. That's all we're looking at. So he possesses the ball. I'm going to pause it right there so we can go over that one more time. What you see on that last clip is a guy run all the way over, pick up the ball, dive. He's out of bounds, possessing the ball, and he shoves it back into play. Watch it again. In lacrosse, and we'll go over this, you are where you last were. He was last inside of the playing area. There's the line that shows the end line. He picks up the ball, dives out of bounds, and flicks the ball back inbounds. He was where he last was, which means he was inbounds. He dove outside over the line. It's not an imaginary line. There's no force field that goes all the way up. He was not out of bounds. He was inbounds, picked up the ball, dove out of bounds, tossed the ball back inbounds. Remember, all we're looking at is versus possession versus not possession. Is he possessed the ball? Yes, he possessed the ball. He threw it over there. Oh, now red possesses the ball. White has the ball. Now it's a loose ball. Batted the ball away. White picks up the ball again. Now there's possessing the ball. He sees the defensive guys coming. He smacks the ball over to his other guy. He batted the ball in that direction. Now he picks up the ball. The ball's possessed again. Possession is the act of carrying, passing, shooting, and cradling. There's possession. Possession. Now, here's the other thing to think about. Once a guy is passing the ball, if he's taking it and he passes the ball, once that ball leaves his stick, he no longer possesses it. He's on offense, but he doesn't possess the ball. The ball is loose. A ball is loose whenever it's not being possessed. So although he is in the act of passing or in the act of shooting, once that ball leaves his stick, he no longer possesses that ball. We're going to keep on watching these because I want to overdo this possession thing. Ball's on the ground, ball's on the ground, still on the ground, picks up the ball, being possessed. He passes the ball, shoots the ball, score. Going to keep on overdoing this possession thing. Ball's loose. They're fighting for the ball. Ball's still loose. Now he possesses it. Ball's loose. Running down the field. Ball still loose, possesses it. Shoots, no score, goalie's got it. Possesses the ball, passes, ball's loose, ball's still loose, possession. Now he possesses the ball. Ball's loose, still loose, there goes the ball, picks it up, possession. Possession, passes, possession, ball's on the ground. Still loose, it was off blue. Blue picks it up. Now they possess the ball. Ball's on the ground. Ball's still on the ground. White has it. White passes it. You have to talk to yourself as you're watching all of these. Is the ball loose or is the ball being possessed? Remember, we're not thinking about penalties right now. It's just whether or not the ball is being possessed or not. Is it loose or possessed? Not going to talk about that penalty that occurred right there. All we're looking at is the ball being possessed or is it loose? Okay, so I hope that made sense. That was, 5 minutes of possession or non-possession. Does he have the ball or is the ball loose? If the ball is loose, it's not possessed. If it's possessed, it's not loose. And if you can wrap your head around that fact, all the rules will make 100% sense because you'll be able to break them down into whether it's possession or non-possession. We left off on this slide with a circular motion. Anytime we blow the whistle, let me say it again. Anytime we blow the whistle, we put our hand up in the air. Put your hand up in the air, blow the whistle. On a loose ball is any instance when the ball is not possessed by a player, including a pass, shot, or ball on the ground. A loose ball can be kicked, batted with a cross, or scooped to gain possession. After a face-off is concluded, the possession signal is not necessary until play is suspended for any reason and is signaled to restart play. So this is after a face-off. Let's say the ball goes out of bounds. It went off of the blue team. Ball goes out of bounds. Hand up in the air. Let me do this because you can actually see what I'm doing. Hand up in the air, blow the whistle, point in the direction of where the ball is going, where they're attacking. Blue's attacking this direction. Blue ball, hand back up. So I'll do it again. Hand up, whistle, blue ball, hand up, and I'm going to wait for him to pick up the ball, come back into the field of play, whistle back up, blow the whistle. So I'll do that whole series one more time again, because I feel like a lot of officials can get lazy, especially towards the end of the season. You don't put your hand up. We have to keep the same mechanic. Hand goes up whenever we blow the whistle. I don't care what it's for. Even on a goal, hand up. You're killing the play. Tweet, green ball, hand back up. Once he picks up the ball and comes back into the field of play, blow the whistle. It's that order every single time. On a face-off, we're not going to blow the whistle. All we're going to do is yell, possession. He possesses the ball. We already brought the play to become active by starting the face-off. They'll fight for the ball. A team gains possession by carrying, cradling, passing, or shooting. Wheel it around, and we yell possession. We do not yell possession on anything except for a face-off. Other than that, we're only blowing the play back in. Does this mechanic, this four-step mechanic, make sense? This is something all of us have to get in the habit of doing. Don't just blow your whistle. Put your hand up and kill the play. I did see a question pop up. The color is of the uniform, correct? Yes. Whatever the dominant color is of the uniform. I will say this, we do not say purple. Colors that are 2 syllables, simplify them to 1 syllable. You can if you want to, I guess. If you're reffing Syracuse, you're not going to say red instead of orange. You're going to say orange. But for high school and middle school, if they're purple, call them blue. If they're yellow, call them gold. Make it 1 syllable so you don't fluff your words. It's the dominant color, and the officials on the game will agree to whatever the colors are going to be called before we ever start the actual game. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, and Gene, that would, to Dean's point about the importance of that, meeting before the game. So that's one of the things the official should be discussing with both coaches before the game is exactly what we're going to be calling the teams.
Right.
And the only on the single hand up in the air, it is a inconsistency. But U.S. Lacrosse, if it's a goal, they don't want the one hand up in the air. They just want the double arm goal. And if it's a timeout, they don't want us raising the hand as well. So those are just some inconsistencies in the mechanics.
Yeah, timeout's just this. Okay, moving on. A shot. Rule 4.5.9, a ball is propelled towards the goal by an offensive player with the intent of scoring a goal. Again, I bring it up what we said before. We know if it's a pass or a shot, and we'll communicate with each other across the field if it's a pass or a shot. The player shooting must be at or above the GLE, which is the goal line extended. It must be thrown from the cross, kicked, or otherwise physically diverted towards the goal to be a shot. You can kick the ball into the goal. You can soccer head the ball into the goal. You cannot throw the ball into the goal with your gloved hand. You cannot bat it with your hand. The only person who determines this rule is the official. If the team does not agree, it does not matter. If you think and your partner thinks it was not a shot, it's not a shot. If you believe it was a shot, it was a shot. It doesn't matter what the coaches say. It is up to you to make that determination whether it was a shot or not a shot. So this is my explanation of goal line extended. So I know that line's a little crooked. I couldn't get my thing to actually concentrate on it. But we see the crease over here on the right-hand side and that long line that's drawn from top to bottom. That is our goal line extended. Inside of the goal, there is a 6-foot line at the bottom of the goal where the goalie is going to stand. Goal line extended is an imaginary line that runs from one alley to the other alley. In order for a goal to count, the person shooting, their cross must be above goal line extended. Must be above goal line extended. Watch one more time. Red has the ball, blue's defending him. He is over goal line extended to shoot the ball. If he is below goal line extended and says, I'm taking a shot, and just shoots it at the goal, that's not a shot. He must be above goal line extended for it to be considered a shot. Okay, next, a shot will remain a shot until the ball comes to rest, which means it stops in the middle of the field. Possession is gained, means someone picks up the ball, passes, cradles, shoots, or carries. The ball goes out of bounds. A player causes the ball to go out of bounds, or the player redirects the ball outside of its original volition to go out of bounds. So let me explain. There's a shot. Guy shoots the ball, goes directly out of bounds. Okay, it's no longer a shot. The ball's out of bounds. He shoots the ball. It bounces off the goalie and stops in the field. As soon as it stops, it's not a shot. Shoots the ball, bounces off the goalie again, is rolling towards the end line. Guy comes to pick it up, changes its direction, its original direction. It's not a shot. Now, I've spent the last like 2 weeks marking up my rule book like crazy for this new season with highlighter and markings and all that kind of thing. There is a rule that says in the rule book, if the ball is going towards the end line, a player comes to scoop it. In the process of him scooping it, he continues its original direction and goes out of bounds. It is still a shot. The direction must change for it not to be considered a shot. If it continues in its original position, it is still a shot. I think this is something that all officials tend to get wrong. The ball could be moving pretty slowly towards the end line. If a guy goes to scoop it and its original direction continues, it's still a shot. Now, if it's going this slow and all of a sudden he touches it and it goes this fast, he's changed it. The shot would have stopped. But it's a judgment call, and it's something you really have to see. But a shot will remain a shot under these conditions. Will always remain a shot. Okay, this is something that we all, no matter who you are, we all can get it wrong. Oh, go back. Okay, so the little black ball, that's the lacrosse ball. Ball's here on the bottom side. It's the player, so on a shot, the player closest to the spot where it goes out of bounds gets possession. Offensive guy passes the ball up. We have this basketball positioning. He passes the ball again. This guy up top is going to take a shot. He's going to beat his defensive man. Who gets the ball? I'll do it again. Pass. Here it comes. Who gets the ball? Is it blue or is it red? So blue is closest to the end line. Let's just pretend that the ball went out of bounds with those two guys running down. Blue's closest to the end line. Red's closest to where the ball went out of bounds. Red is going to get the ball. It doesn't matter if the blue guy was standing on the end line the entire time. If he's not closer to where the ball went out of bounds, when it went out of bounds, Red's getting the ball. Red will pick up the ball, step back and bounce. We blow the ball back in. Blow our whistle, tweet, 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 then we go. Okay? The player closest to where the ball went out of bounds. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, this is Alan. Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
Just remind, especially for the new guys, the player closest to the line has to be in bounds.
Yes. A player can't be straddling the end line or actually be out of bounds. You have to be in bounds to be considered an active player.
And he's got to be legally equipped too. So if his stick is not in his hand, or if he decides to throw his stick, throwing the stick would add the ball would be that 1 minute non-releasable, or maybe 2 or 3. But he's got to be in bounds and legally equipped.
Yes, and what we'll see a lot of goalies running out of the goal. A goalie will run out of the goal and chase the ball. It doesn't matter where his stick is. We're not counting the stick in this part as part of the body. You could have these 3 guys running after the ball. All of their sticks can be extended as far as possible. It doesn't matter where the stick is. It's where the body is. Where his body starts is who's closer. You got to think about it. This defensive guy right here has a 6-foot pole. This guy right here has a 3.5-foot pole. Who do you think stick's going to be closer? This blue guy. But it's all a matter of where the body is and who's going to get the ball. The stick doesn't matter. They're going to reach their stick out as far as they possibly can. Where that hand starts, that's what we're counting, not where the end of the stick is. It's not what we're doing. Okay, so here is another little video we're going to watch. So this is just a basic running offense. That's all this is. We're watching for the possession. He shot. The white guy was closer to where the ball went out of bounds, went out of bounds. You see the official with his hand up, steps back and bounce. He turns his hand. Ball is getting passed. Ball is getting passed around. He's still possessing the ball. Still possessing it. And all this is getting used to the play, the way it works. It's fast. So we have to kind of be on our toes at all times. But we're watching for the possession, watching to see what happens. He's cradling the ball. They're still going. Virginia's playing really good defense. Gonna have a one-on-one situation. He runs. No, defense is too good. Try it again. Shoots. Ball was out of bounds. White guy was closer. We give it to him. shoots, white was closer. Hand up, kill the play, put it in the direction where it needs to go, hand back up, blow it back in. There's a shot and a score. And the official comes in and signals a goal. Now, I know for a bunch of you guys that have a lot of experience, you might be thinking mechanics, but I'm not even thinking about mechanics right now. All I'm thinking about is the play of the game. That's it. We're going to watch this last play, and then we'll move on. He shoots. You see how both guys are chasing it? There it is. Do you see the dive? Now, we can't really see it from our position. We're not in a good way to see it. Both guys chase. You saw him dive. One guy's a short pole, one guy's a long pole. Doesn't matter where his stick is. Doesn't matter if he dives after it. It's whoever is closest to where the ball went out of bounds when the ball went out of bounds. Okay. Our field. The lines on the field can be 2 to 4 inches wide. The goal line must be 2 inches wide. Midline must be 4 inches wide and can be white or a contrasting color. God, I'm trying to think of a good field. The Father Ryan's field has about 8 different colors on it. Baylor? No, not Baylor. Macaulay's the same way. They got like 4 or 5 different colors on it. I think Webb Knoxville. There's the exact same way, just several different colors. Notating different sports. Sometimes we got to look at what the colors are. That's something we'll talk about before the game with all the players and the coaches. Hey, coach, your inline's black, but your sidelines are white. We'll talk about that. And that's perfectly fine for it to be multiple colors. We just want to make sure it's all communicated before the game starts. There are 7 cones on the field. 1 on each corner of the field, that's 4. 1 on the far side of the field of the midline, that's 5. And 2 on either side of the penalty box, that's 7. There's 7 cones on the field. We need to have 7 cones. It's not a penalty to not have the corner cones. It is not a penalty. It's something we can ignore for the time, but we need to have a cone on the midfield line and on the penalty area. Okay. Same thing we brought up before. If this side over here is the home side, our penalty box area is 10 yards on either side of the midfield line. 10 yards. Outside of that, continuing down is a coach's area on either side. Behind that is where the players will be. Our penalty box and substitution area are the same thing. If a guy's serving a penalty, he'll serve in the substitution box. It is 10 yards on either side of the field. Can be an X or a square, the face-off X, the middle of the field. Must be on the field before the game starts. Now, we've talked about this before. If we have a really crappy game and the field's all muddy, that X and square might go away pretty quickly. We can move it along the line if we need to. Okay? Keep on going a little bit further. The midline goes from one side of the field to the other side of the field. A player touching the midline is said to be on the midline. It doesn't matter if one toe is on this side. He's touching the midline. The ball going over midline is not over until it completely crosses. There's the difference. The ball must completely cross the midline to be over it, where a player just has to touch it to be on it. Be sure to look at midlines on logos. There should be a shadow line. All football fields now, their turf, have a midfield, have a logo right in the middle of the field. There should be a shadow line, meaning a line going through the logo for us to do a face-off on. Is it something we can give a penalty for? Technically, yes. That is something that's wrong with the field. Is it something that we need to give a penalty for? No. We'll do it whatever we, and I'll use Father Ryan's field as an example. Father Ryan's got this big logo right in the middle of their field and no shadow line. But in their logo, there is a line It's just not smack in the center of the field. It's off to one side by 2 yards and it's off to the other side by 2 yards. We can use those as our way to take the face off. So there is our midfield line rules. Does anyone have any questions about the face-off square or the midfield line? It's basically the 50-yard line on a field.
Hey, Gene, just to add to that, so Father Ryan's a great example. So in that case, the TSLA has authorized that. So Dean, the question you're going to ask me is about, all the fields you have over there. So you would push those questions to the league. If the league, is authorized, then it's fine. If the league is not authorized, then, you may need to look at adjudicating that penalty if you feel you need to. It's really about getting a fair face-off. But the TSLA stepped in and said that all these fields that, it's kind of a permanent emblem in the middle. If there are lines that we can use some way, say somehow, some shape or form, that's fine. So, but that would really be up to the leagues. Again, we're trying to get out of having to make these decisions. There should be league adjudications.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Next slide. A goal. A goal is a loose ball, emphasis on loose ball, that completely passes through the front of the plane formed by the rear edge of the goal line, the goal post, and the crossbar. There's the goal line. There's the post. There's the crossbar. It doesn't matter if the ball comes to rest on this line. That is not a goal. It must pass completely over the line for it to be considered a goal. Impetus is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if it goes off of a defensive player. It's still a goal. It must be a loose ball. If the goalie possesses the ball in his stick, he is allowed to bring his stick back through the plane of the goal. That is not a goal. It must be a loose ball that passes beyond the plane of the goal post, crossbar, and goal line. It must be a loose ball. A shot released before the horn. So we have two of these. A shot released before the horn. A shot released after the horn means the horn to end a quarter or a half. A goal will be allowed if a shot is released prior to the end of a period. Will be allowed. The shot may hit the ground or deflect off of a goalkeeper or defensive player. The shot may not hit another offensive player. Now there's something else to add right here. The shot may not bounce off of the goalkeeper, bounce off of a defensive player, and go into the goal and be considered a goal. Let me say that again, because I had to look this up and read it 3 or 4 times. And I'll get your questions in a second. A shot can bounce off of before the end of a period. If a guy shoots the ball while the ball's in the air, we hear the horn go off. If the ball hits the goalkeeper and goes in the goal, it's good. If the ball goes off of a defensive player and goes into the goal, it's good. If the ball hits another offensive player, it is not good. Remember, this is after the horn has sounded. One thing that has to be added to this, and I'm sorry I didn't add it, the ball is not allowed to hit a goalkeeper and then hit any other player, offense or defense, and go back into the goal. That's a really roundabout way of saying that, but those are the rules for a shot released before the horn. Okay, let me get to some of these questions real quick. You might want to remind the new guys of a Fox 40 whistle. Reason, it is loud. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. Yes, a whistle. The Fox 40 whistles are the best ones. There's a lot of people now that are using artificial whistles, which is a handheld whistle. I don't think the TNLOA has said anything about that. I think we can use them. Is that correct, Jeff?
They're allowed. Yeah, I mean, those electronic whistles are allowed. I mean, I've I haven't used one, but I've been on the field with folks who've used them in soccer. Vinny used one at Ravenwood for some off-season scrimmages, and as long as they're set to that highest setting, they're actually more audible than most people blow on the finger whistle.
Yeah. So the electronic whistles are allowed. They're between like 12 and 25 bucks on Amazon. Tom asked if a goalie makes a stop, ball's on the ground, and the goalie inadvertently kicks it in. Is that a goal? Yes, that is a goal. And that happens sometimes. It really does, especially with like middle school. The guy will make a stop, he'll freak out, and all of a sudden the ball will go in the goal. So yes, if the goalie makes a stop. Now that is something that doesn't pertain to this slide though. Okay. So if the goalie makes a stop, the ball hits the ground, the goalie inadvertently kicks into the goal, that's the goal. Yes. If it's the same thing happens though, if it's before a horn within the rules, that is still a goal. If it hits the goalie and the goalie makes the stop and all of a sudden it continues on and rolls in the goal, that's still a goal. Yes. That's a good question, Tom. That's a really good question. Okay, so I have about 8 minutes left. I got to get through a bunch of these slides and talk about background checks. Out of bounds. Player in possession steps on or beyond or any part of his body or cross touches the boundary, he is out of bounds. If a player's stick is on the out of bounds line and he's trying to play the ball, he is playing it from out of bounds. And this happens more often than you think it does. The ball goes right towards the end line. One player doesn't realize where he is. His foot goes on the out of bounds line and he tries to play the ball. He's not allowed to do that. He is playing the ball from out of bounds. A loose ball touching on or beyond a boundary line or breaking the plane, you award the ball to the team that did not last touch it. Now, this, remember, it says boundary line, not midfield line. Boundary line is all of the lines, in line and sidelines. As soon as it touches that line, it's out of bounds. But remember, a midfield line, the ball has to completely cross that midfield line to be over it. So we got to make that separation. So this is a rule of thumb, don't be too good. Don't let the black and white of the rule cloud your judgment on the field. A lot of lacrosse rules are very gray, and it depends on the situation. If the call is close, make the best judgment you can quickly. Now, I say quickly, and I put it in parentheses because it's okay to slow down and think about what just happened. If you had 3 or 4 things happen at the exact same time, don't make that call super fast and maybe get a chance of getting it wrong. Take a second, think about it, then make the call. Make it confidently and deliberately. Confidence in your call goes a long way. If you yell a call and you make it sound like a question, someone's going to question you. Make your call confidently and deliberately. Okay. Airborne players, we got airborne players and down players next. Any player who becomes airborne, whether inbounds or out of bounds, is determined by where he was in contact with the field of play. This player right here obviously was outside the crease. He jumped, there's the ball right there. Now this is a USA national game, but this guy was outside the crease. Let's just say he was outside the crease. He shot the ball. Ball goes into the goal. He steps into the crease. That's fine. As long as he was in contact with the ground outside the crease after the ball leaves his stick. Same thing goes on an inline. We watched that one clip a couple of times. The guy was running towards the inline. He scooped the ball, jumped out of bounds, threw the ball backwards. He's technically still considered inbounds. You are where you were when it comes to lacrosse. That's airborne player. That's rule 4, 5, 10. Downed players. A player is downed when he has any part of his body in contact with the ground other than his feet. That can be his hand. It could be his hand wrapped around the stick. It could be his knee. It could be his back. It could be his butt. A downed player can be stick checked but cannot be body checked in any way. It really doesn't matter, especially with middle school. It doesn't matter how hard this kid gets body checked. He can get hip checked. It's a penalty. He's downed, especially at the middle school level. We got to protect those kids. A down player can play the ball, which we've mentioned before. A down player is any player that has anything other than his feet touching the field. A shot that goes out of bounds is awarded to the player who is closest to where the ball went out of bounds at the point when it went out of bounds. To make the best call, the official responsible must be in the correct position to do so. Don't make a really close call for a shot out of bounds from 15 yards away. Run towards the out of bounds. Run towards it. The goal, 6 feet by 6 feet square, 2 rigid posts and a crossbar, can be in ground, which means it's like cemented into the ground. Flat iron, which means the metal that contacts the ground is flat. Obtuse angle has a longer back end or 90-degree angle. Must be orange in color. The home team is responsible for all the goals, including fixing them. If there's a hole in the top left-hand corner, tell the coach, "Coach, you got any zip ties? We need to fix this goal." Failure to provide goals is a 3-minute not releasable USC. I've never had this penalty for someone not being able to provide a goal, but that is what it is. It's an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. Lacrosse balls must meet the NOXI standard. They will be stamped with a NOXI standard. The NOXI is the National Operating Committee for Standards for Athletic Equipment. It must be white in color, but the coaches can agree to use another color. I had a game 5 years ago where it was a turf field. It had snowed and sleeted the night before. We had 6 inches of snow and ice on the field. Before the game started, Alan, I think you were on the game with me. Before the game started, we were like, can we use orange? And we agreed to use orange balls. But we have to agree to it before the game starts. But any of these colors are fine. It'll have the NOXI stamp on the ball. If you find a ball, which is very rare now, but if you find a ball that doesn't have a NOXI stamp, it's not a penalty. Throw the ball out of bounds and get a new ball. Now, I'm not saying we're going to check the ball every single time, but after a goal is scored, you grab the ball, look at it. If it doesn't say NOXI on it, throw it out of bounds, get a new ball. It's not a penalty. Just get a new ball. And they're supplied by the home team. Game equipment, which is required for the home team. A scorekeeping device, which must be visible. It could be a flip thing. It could be the Jumbotron, scorekeeper, whatever. They must have a clock, a timing device for penalties, which nowadays is mostly someone playing on their phone. They must have balls, cones, a book for penalties, and a horn. The reason we're tracking penalties is because as soon as someone gets 5 minutes of personal fouls, they are disqualified from the game. We must be able to keep track of the penalties. We as officials on the field will keep track of the score. We're not going to keep track of the clock. That's their responsibility. If they don't have anyone to do it, we can, but it's their responsibility. We're going to keep track of the score. And at the end of every single quarter, we're going to go up to whoever's keeping the score and ask them, is this the score you got? But if it's a visible scorekeeping device, we shouldn't have a problem with recognizing it. The last thing, for the state of Tennessee, your requirements to be able to officiate, you must become a U.S. Lacrosse member as an official. I know a bunch of the junior officials this year, they also play. You need to become a U.S. Lacrosse member as an official. A U.S. Lacrosse member as a player is different. If you're over the age of 18, you must submit a background check through U.S. Lacrosse. And then you must complete the online rules course and examination. They are 2 separate things. The online rules course, there's one for high school and there's one for youth. The examination this year, if you select that you're doing high school and youth, they're going to do a combination of the 2 tests on the examination. You don't take 2 different tests. It's a combination of the two put together. Your US Lacrosse background check, if you log into US Lacrosse, there's the hamburger, the 3 lines at the top left. Click on that, you click background check, and you go from there. In order to submit your background check, you must be able to submit a copy of a photo ID. So you need to have it on your computer or your phone where you can submit a copy of a valid photo ID. Please address the newest officials that airborne players are still subject to both stick and body checks. Yes, airborne players can still be body checked and stick checked. Last year was my first year, passed the rules test. Does the test need to be taken again to be officially official? Yes, you need to take the rules test for this next year. Even though everyone only refed, between 2 and 15 games this last season, we still have to take the rules examination again. Now, that is the end of the training session. We're 1 minute over time. If you need to go, I appreciate you guys participating in this. This whole thing has been recorded, and I will put it online for everyone to view later, including the PowerPoint for everyone to view online. And I'll email it out to everyone. If you new guys, if you want to stay on the call and ask some questions, I can go back in a little bit more in depth. But you do not have to stick with the call, and I appreciate you guys participating in this the first ever statewide training that the state of Tennessee has ever had. So I appreciate you guys joining in, and the next one is going to be next Sunday at the same time. Next Sunday at the exact same time, and that one we're going to talk about personal fouls and a little bit and delve into some 2-man mechanics. So today was just a basic overview of everything. Next week we're talking about personal fouls and mechanics and signals. Does anyone have any questions before people start to get off? Jeff said membership is annual. The rules test is annual. If you have not taken the online rules course, you have to do that as well. Everything is annually updated.
Yeah, and so that online rules course, if I can just pause for a second on that. So that US Lacrosse decided that the online rules course, in order to be certified, everyone has to take that. So a lot of us have already taken that. If you have already taken it, that checks the box. And we can give you credit training hours for that because you took it. If you have never taken that course, you are going to need to take that course. You cannot be a certified official without ever having taken the US Lacrosse online rules course.
Right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen one more time. I have pulled up right here is my US Lacrosse homepage. So in order to access background checks, it's right there. When you want to access your training and certification, I believe it's in the e-learning section. Once it pulls up, your e-learning section is where you'll get all of the US Lacrosse PowerPoints, mechanics outlines, and those kind of resources. So if I go into the catalog, this is where you can find your all your officials like your examinations, so your annual rules exams, which is right here. Okay, but you can also find your men's game officials, and you can view your convention sections, professional webinars, which you can get credit for. So once you finish these, and they're all free, once you finish these, you submit a certificate to your assigner and myself, and I will keep track with the assigners of your certifications. For this year, everyone must get 8 hours of training certifications, 8 hours. You just got 2 today, okay? So, and you're gonna get 2 when we have our statewide rules meetings. There's 4, you're already halfway done. Before everyone goes though, this year, I do want to start a mentor-mentee program. I already have it all laid out, a mentor-mentee program for new officials, anyone who would like to participate. If you would be willing to or want to participate in the mentor-mentee program as a mentor, could you please email me with your want to participate in that program, I'm going to give you an official. I think we have three new officials in Knoxville. There's 4 in Chattanooga. There's 7 in the Nashville area that all need mentors. If you would like to be a mentor, please email me. If you have 2 years or less experience, I want to give you a mentor. And it's not saying you're not a good official after your 1st or 2nd year, but it'll really help when it comes to answering questions if you have them. Just email me if you have a want to get a mentor, and I will assign you a mentor in January. I want to go ahead and start creating that list. But besides that, it is 10:02. We lasted exactly 2 hours and 2 minutes. If you want to stay on the call, new guys, if you want to stay on and ask questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions you got. But other than that, I appreciate everyone participating, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Don't get in too much trouble. I see 2 new messages. Flash says, I want Jeff to mentor me. Happy to. Okay, so, but that's it. If you want to go ahead and hop off the call, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys next Sunday. Remember, we have another training next Sunday at the exact same time. The links were sent out, and I'll be sure to send that out again on Wednesday of our links. But that's it. I'm going to stay on the call for anybody that has questions, but that's it. I appreciate you guys. I don't know, who is Flash? What is Flash's real name?
Is Flash still on the call? Flash, who are you?
I don't know who Flash is. He's still on the call. It's a secret.
It's going to be hard to mentor you if you keep your identity secret, but.
Hint, that's my rugby nickname. Yeah, I'm still drawing a blank.
All right, so on your spreadsheet for credit for the session, just put Flash, and I guess eventually we'll find out.
He's Bruce Wayne. Oh, good Lord. But Michael and Tom and Flash, do you guys have any questions? And we can delve a little bit more into it. I know Michael, you had several questions, and that's perfectly fine. Do you have any more questions for me? And you can unmute your mic and just talk, and I'll walk you through anything. I'll pull it back up in the PowerPoint and explain it a little bit more. Yeah, that sounds fine. We can do it that way. But I'll shoot this PowerPoint out in an email this afternoon so you guys can review it. If you're not a U.S. Lacrosse member as an official, I highly suggest doing that as soon as you possibly can. It'll help you just with the rules examination courses, all the webinars that are online, and help prepare you more, especially next week, because we're really busting out personal fouls next week. So that's only half of it, but I did include Jeff. I did include Jeff in the attendance log. Jeff would like a mentor as well. You got it. I can absolutely do that. But that's it. If you don't have any questions for me, then we can boogie on out, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Hey, Jeff, stay on for a little bit.
Yep, you got it.